I never thought a roommate situation could turn into something that would completely mess up my life. At the time, it all started so normal, almost boringly normal, like one of those situations where you think you just got lucky. But looking back now, I realize that's exactly how it always starts in stories like this. Nothing dramatic ever announces itself in the beginning. People always imagine disasters starting with obvious warning signs, but most of the time they don't. Most of the time they start quietly, comfortably, hidden inside ordinary moments that seem harmless when you're living through them. That's exactly what happened with Lena. When I moved into the apartment last year, I honestly thought I had escaped a nightmare. My previous living situation had been chaotic beyond belief. Loud dorms, strangers constantly showing up uninvited, people fighting in hallways at 3 in the morning, alarms going off for no reason, roommates borrowing things without asking and pretending they forgot. By the end of that year, I felt mentally exhausted all the time. So when I got assigned to a small off-campus apartment with only one roommate, it felt like my life was finally calming down. The apartment itself wasn't amazing, but I loved it immediately anyway. Old wooden floors, a tiny kitchen with bad lighting, thin walls, a living room barely big enough for the couch and TV, but it felt peaceful, quiet in a way I desperately needed. And then there was Lena. The first time I met her, she was sitting cross-legged on the living room floor building one of those cheap IKEA shelves while music played softly from her phone. She looked up when I walked in carrying boxes and immediately smiled like she already knew me. "You must be my roommate," she said casually. There was something instantly calming about her. She wasn't overly energetic or fake friendly. She just seemed easy. The kind of person who naturally blends into a space without making it stressful. Within 10 minutes, she was helping me carry boxes upstairs. "Careful with that one," she laughed as one nearly slipped out of my hands. "These stairs are basically trying to murder people." I remember laughing too, and that memory honestly bothers me now because it felt so normal. That's the hardest part about everything that happened later. For a while, it really was normal. The first few weeks went surprisingly smoothly. We naturally settled into routines without ever needing awkward roommate conversations. She liked mornings. I liked staying up late. She cleaned the kitchen obsessively, and I usually handled groceries and trash. Sometimes we'd both end up sitting in the living room after classes, silently eating takeout while random Netflix shows played in the background. It became comfortable quickly, and comfort creates trust faster than people realize. Soon, we started sharing little things naturally. She borrowed my charger constantly because she kept losing hers. I borrowed shampoo from her whenever I forgot to buy more. We started texting each other small, everyday messages. "Can you grab milk? Your package came." The Wi-Fi died again. Normal roommate stuff. Sometimes we stayed up late talking about random things. Professors we hated, relationship drama from college, future plans, childhood stories. Lena was an incredibly good listener. At the time, I thought that made her kind. Now I think she was studying me, but back then I trusted her completely. And honestly, I think that's why what happened later messed me up so badly. If she had been openly creepy from the beginning, maybe it wouldn't have hurt as much. But she wasn't. She felt safe, familiar, predictable. Looking back, there were probably signs. Tiny ones. The kind your brain ignores because they don't fit the image you already built of someone. Lena was constantly on her phone. Not casually scrolling like everyone else. More like focused, intense. Always typing something, deleting things, switching between apps quickly. Whenever I entered the room unexpectedly, she'd tilt her screen away almost automatically. One time I joked about it. "What are you doing, running a secret government operation?" She laughed too fast. Maybe. At the time, I didn't think much about it. Everyone deserves privacy. But then strange things started happening outside the apartment. At first, it was subtle enough that I barely noticed. Someone from class messaged me asking why I seemed angry lately. Another person sent, "Did I do something wrong?" I remember staring at those messages completely confused. "What do you mean?" But nobody explained clearly. They'd either change the subject or say something vague like, "Never mind." Then people started acting weird in person too. Small things at first. Conversation suddenly stopping when I walked up. Friends becoming colder. People giving me strange looks during class. I kept wondering if I had unknowingly done something offensive. One afternoon, a girl I barely knew stopped me outside a lecture hall. "You know screenshots spread fast, right?" she said awkwardly. I frowned immediately. "What screenshots?" The second I asked that, her expression changed completely. Like she instantly realized something was wrong. Nothing," she muttered before walking away quickly. That moment stayed in my head all day. That night, lying in bed unable to sleep, I opened my phone and searched my own name online. At first, nothing unusual appeared. Then I found the account, and I swear my stomach dropped so fast it physically hurt. The profile picture was one of my old Instagram photos. My full name was there, my college. Even details from my bio copied almost perfectly. For a second, I genuinely thought maybe one of my old accounts had been hacked. Then I opened the profile, and everything got worse. The post sounded almost like me, but not completely. Like someone trying to imitate my personality while twisting it slightly into something crueler. The account posted constantly. Opinions, thoughts, comments about people, stories about daily life. At first glance, most people would probably believe it was me. But reading deeper felt horrifying. Because hidden inside those posts were details nobody should have known. Private conversations, personal insecurities, things I had only said inside our apartment. One post joked about my friend Emily crying after failing an exam. I had never posted about that. Never texted about it. Never told anyone except Lena. Another post mocked someone's relationship problems, using phrases almost identical to words I had used privately in our kitchen one night. My hands started shaking while scrolling. The deeper I went, the worse it became. Some posts were subtle manipulation designed to make me look arrogant or fake. Others were clearly intended to create tension between me and my friends. The account would post things like, "Some people are exhausting to be around but too sensitive to tell the truth to," or, "I'm honestly starting to realize most people around me are jealous." Nothing extreme enough to look obviously fake, just believable enough to slowly poison people's opinions about me. And suddenly all those weird interactions over the past few weeks made sense. The coldness, the awkward looks, the strange tension. Someone had been quietly destroying my reputation while pretending to be me. And there was only one person who could possibly know all those details: Lena. I remember sitting frozen on my bed staring at my phone while my mind desperately searched for another explanation. Maybe someone hacked her phone. Maybe she accidentally shared private conversations with someone else. Maybe this was some bizarre coincidence. But deep down, I already knew. Nobody else had access to that much information about me. Nobody. That realization changed the entire atmosphere of the apartment instantly. Suddenly, every memory felt wrong. Every late-night conversation. Every moment she listened carefully while I talked. Every time she asked oddly specific questions. It all replayed differently now. I waited for her to come home that night. And honestly, I don't think I've ever felt that kind of anxiety before. Not fear exactly, more like disbelief mixed with dread. Because part of me still couldn't accept that someone I lived with, someone I trusted, could secretly be doing something this disturbing. When I finally heard the apartment door unlock, my chest tightened immediately. Lena walked in carrying grocery bags like it was any normal night. "Hey," she smiled. "I bought extra pasta if you want some." The normalness of it made my skin crawl. I stared at her too long without answering. Her smile faded slightly. "What?" I swallowed hard. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Have you seen anything weird online about me lately?" The reaction was tiny. Most people probably wouldn't have noticed it. But I did. Her shoulders stiffened for just a second. "What do you mean?" "There's an account pretending to be me." She laughed nervously. "That's creepy." I watched her carefully. Then I held up my phone with the screenshots. The second she saw them, the entire atmosphere changed. She went completely silent. Not angry. Not confused. Just quiet. Like someone caught halfway through a lie. I kept waiting for denial. Instead, she slowly sat down on the couch and sighed. Then she said something I still think about all the time. I was curious. I blinked at her. What? I wanted to see how people reacted. I genuinely couldn't process what she was saying. "What are you talking about?" She shrugged slightly. "People act differently depending on how they see someone online." I wanted to test it. By pretending to be me? It wasn't supposed to become a huge thing. I stared at her in disbelief. "You literally used my identity. It's not like I stole your bank account." That sentence changed everything, because suddenly I realized she truly didn't understand how horrifying this was. Or maybe she understood perfectly and simply didn't care. I asked her why she posted private things. Her answer made me feel sick. It made the account feel authentic. Authentic. Like my actual life was just material for some weird experiment she was conducting. I told her to delete everything immediately. Every post, every screenshot, every message. Immediately. But instead of apologizing, she became defensive. "You're overreacting." "Overreacting?" "Yes, nobody's actually hurt." I laughed once out of disbelief. "My friendships are literally getting destroyed. They'll calm down." The way she said it so casually honestly scared me more than yelling would have, because she sounded detached from reality, like she viewed people as characters instead of real human beings. That night, we stopped talking completely. I locked myself in my room and started gathering evidence. Screenshots, links, messages, everything. Part of me still felt guilty while reporting the account. Not because I thought she was innocent, but because reporting it meant accepting that this situation was real. It meant accepting that my roommate had secretly been impersonating me for months. A few hours later, the account disappeared, and for maybe 10 minutes I thought it was over. Then the fallout started. The next morning, my phone exploded with notifications. Lena had already told people her version of the story. According to her, I had humiliated her, violated her privacy, reported her without communicating properly, destroyed her mental health. And somehow, unbelievably, some people actually sided with her. One mutual friend texted me, "You could have handled this more maturely." Another said, "Reporting her immediately was kind of extreme." Extreme. I remember staring at that word in complete disbelief. Because how exactly are you supposed to react calmly when someone secretly steals your identity and manipulates your relationships behind your back? But other people reacted very differently. Some were horrified. Emily called me immediately after hearing everything. "She's actually insane," she said flatly. Another friend told me, "That's genuinely disturbing behavior." But the damage was already spreading through the friend group. People started choosing sides. Some defended me, some defended Lena. Others avoided both of us entirely because they didn't want drama. Meanwhile, I still had to live with her, and honestly, that became the worst part of everything. The apartment no longer felt safe. Every room felt tense. Every silence felt heavy. I started locking my bedroom door every single night. And once trust breaks that deeply, paranoia takes over fast. I started replaying months of memories differently. How often she asked personal questions. How carefully she remembered tiny details. How she observed people quietly during conversations. I even started wondering whether she had gone through my room while I wasn't home. One night, I checked my drawers because I became convinced things had been moved. I couldn't tell anymore whether I was becoming paranoid or finally seeing things clearly. Then one evening, I came home unexpectedly early. Lena was sitting on the couch scrolling on her phone. The second she saw me, she locked the screen instantly. Again. Even after everything. And suddenly, I realized something terrifying. This behavior had probably been happening the entire time. I just hadn't understood what I was seeing. You really told everyone I violated your privacy? I asked quietly. She looked exhausted. You embarrassed me. You impersonated me. You didn't have to destroy everything. Destroy everything. That phrase stayed in my head for days, because she genuinely believed I was the problem. Not herself, me. Eventually, the situation became unbearable enough that I moved out early, even though I could barely afford it. I just couldn't stay there anymore. The apartment that once felt peaceful now felt poisoned. And honestly, even after leaving, the damage didn't disappear. Some friendships never recovered. Some people still think I overreacted. Some still insist it was just online drama, but they didn't live through it. They didn't experience the feeling of seeing private parts of their life written online by someone else pretending to be them. They didn't experience the horror of realizing someone had been studying their personality closely enough to imitate it. And the worst part? Sometimes I still think about the beginning. The quiet nights watching TV, the pizza conversations, the casual trust, the feeling that I had finally found stability after a chaotic year. I replay those memories, constantly trying to figure out which parts were real. Did she ever actually see me as a friend? Or was I just material for her from the very beginning?